Actually, I was supposed to talk to Pierce. You good, Pierce? All right. 7:05, I'll call this meeting to order. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Robinson. Here. Glover.
Here.
Gettle.
Here.
And Councilmember Sperry said he will be here.
Should be here soon. Thank you. All right, we'll go to the Unified Police Department report. Chief Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm hoping you got your UPD stats and financial report last week. We kicked that out as soon as we got our comm stats in. It showed that we did 952 cases, which is pretty much par for the course over the 5-year as I've been watching those trends. We did just over 450 citations, and as far as financially, we're at 7% under budget, which is really good this time of year. So I do want to mention that tomorrow is we're having a memorial down at the Sheriff's Office building. It's for National Police Week, and every year we do this at 10 o'clock in the morning. Those officers that died in the line of duty are, and as well as their family, are invited to attend. And it's just a short, kind of sweet service that kind of goes over and reflects on some of the officers that we've lost in the line of duty. I may have mentioned this last time I spoke, but Officer Doug Widman no longer works for us. He was one of our shelter resource officers. He was a great officer, but he decided to take on kiteboarding professionally down in Corpus Christi, Texas. So some people follow their dreams, and as well as his wife that lives down there. She was a Salt Lake City firefighter and went down and did that also. So they're two little kids following their dreams, which I'm a little bit jealous of. We did replace Doug Widman with Brittany Washington. If you're familiar with Officer Washington, she's a great addition to our shelter resource officers. So I want to thank the mayor as well as city manager for coming and talking to our officers twice last week. We scheduled, so we had the patrol covered, and they came in and answered questions for well over an hour to an hour and a half. And my feedback afterwards was they really appreciate, even though some of the news isn't rosy, they appreciate the transparency. So I want to thank you for that. We are currently fully encumbered with officers, which is kind of unusual. We're full. I can't take any more. 2 of those are in post. Kind of the dilemma with post is that can be like 7 months before we start seeing the return where they're back out on the road. That's if they do make it through all the training, the post training, as well as FTO training, which is highly likely and pretty typical. So, and then just with Public Works here, I want to recognize we always work in very good partnership with them. Last week, our shelter resource officers, I believe it was on Wednesday, went over on Millennium Way, and there's a empty lot just south of Motel 6 that the lot owner cut down a lot of trees at our request, or at least branches off trees, which then turned into Sherwood Forest and a tent. And so our folks went in there and kind of mitigated that and completely filled up a flatbed trailer full of just garbage. And we're still working with the property owner to try to get them to get rid of those branches, and so it doesn't create a nuisance in the future. But I know in the past Public Works has helped us with cleanups like that, and they are not fun. They're fairly extensive, and our officers just went out and did this one. So when I went over there and looked at it, I was going to call Glenn and ask for a bulldozer, but they were knee deep in it and just finishing it up. So that's all I have tonight. Any questions for me or comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, so I'm going to mess with our agenda just a little bit, and we're going to go to the National Public Works Week proclamation
first before we get to recognizing the Canyon School District Teachers of the Year. Before I get into that proclamation, I just want to say for our workshop today, we went on a public works tour and went on for 2 hours and went and viewed different facilities, looked at how we deal with the sewage in our community, talked about different water infrastructure needs. And I think on a basic level, we all know what Public Works does. Often as we work with them, it's when residents call and say, hey, why isn't my street plowed? We had a lot of that this winter just with all the snow. But I think that it was, even with having a basic understanding, it was incredibly pretty eye-opening to me of the conditions you all have to work in with the limited resources that you have, what you contribute to our community, not only in the time you spend, but I'm sure what you physically have to go through in the jobs that you have. So just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I know that you all do a ton for our community and are often not recognized in very, I guess, prominent ways. So really do appreciate it. Okay. Yeah. They're mostly sitting over here together, just, huddling together, which is fine. But I could make them stand up and do a dance or something, but I won't do that.
Can we do that?
They could just stand.
They could stand. We use stand, and we can give you a round of applause. These are some of our supervisors, managers, directors. Thank you. All right. I'll try not to read this too fast, as my wife likes to tell me I do every single time when she watches online. Whereas our public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to a sustainable and resilient community and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Midvale City. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our city's roadways, parks, water supply, wastewater systems, flood control infrastructure, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and our entire Midvale community to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs, services, and duties. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Mayor Marcus Stevenson, and the City Council of Midvale City hereby proclaim the week May 21st to 27, 2023 as the National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens and civic leaders to honor our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees and recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our health, safety, and quality of life. I learned today that there's a lot of records that local governments have to keep, and that these are permanent records. So as long as Midvale City exists in any way, this will always be here in recognition of Public Works Week. So again, thank you for your
Mayor,
efforts.
can we do a picture with all of you guys? I know you're gonna love me for this, but
We're going to make their teams so jealous that they weren't here for this.
Glenn.
Come on, Glenn.
I'm not taking no for an answer.
You gotta
You gotta come to the middle.
this. Sorry.
We're like
You've seen it several times, Glenn.
In the last week.
Is this worse?
Definitely the right people are the back here.
Okay. Oh, that's good, Bobo. Yeah, that's good. Councilmember Gettle, thank you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and one more time. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you, guys.
I think me and him are the same height, and I'm like,
Hey, you gotta shake hands.
a foot out.
That was really good.
I pay attention, shake hands.
That's right.
He looked at my name tag and tried to be smooth. I saw that.
We'll talk nutrition. motion later? That's fine. Thank you.
What'd you do?
I would definitely get the wall.
Tell him to do it again.
We can have it.
I was very impressed.
Okay.
I like doing it. Oh, I do. It's fun. I end up mostly in the trees.
So
20 feet.
the next item we have is the proclamation recognizing our teachers. I believe that we're still maybe expecting one other teacher and one other council member. And so what I'd like to do is make a motion that we go to public comment, since I know that we have one. And then we'll, regardless of where we're at, we'll go back to the proclamation after that.
Mayor, I move that we proceed to public comments.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we are going to move into public comments. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing tonight may address the city council at this point by stepping to the microphone and giving their name for the record. Having public comments.
Thank you, City Council members and Mayor. My name is Suzanne Harrison, and residents as well, hello. I am a newly elected member of the Salt Lake County Council. I represent the entire county, and I'm here both to introduce myself and also just say thank you for your service, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me in any way that I can assist you and serve beside you for our shared constituents. Like I said, I represent the entire county, so all of your constituents are also my constituents, and I truly care about the work that you're doing here in Midvale and want to serve right beside you. I'm also here on a specific errand and ask because a lot of people are struggling in our community right now. I know you're hearing about this. Cost of living is a stressor for many, many families and residents here. And I wanted to ask for your help in getting the word out about some of the programs that Salt Lake County has to help, specifically with tax relief, tax deferral, and also other assistance programs, especially for folks that may be lower income. I introduced a program that's going to have an additional insert in the notice of valuation that will be mailed out to every single property owner, but I'm hoping that this will be something that can be shared to every resident because there's assistance for rental relief. There's also an assortment of assistance programs out there, whether or not you're a property owner. And this insert will be in the notice of valuation that comes out to every property owner in the end of July. And if you have like a mayor's youth group council, or if you can help share this information on your social media, we're gonna share the flyer with you when it gets finalized. But in the meantime, there's a website, slco.org/assistance-programs-services that has links to the tax relief and other assistance programs. And then for folks that may not be as tech savvy, you can call the treasurer's office at 385-468-8300 and they can help answer questions. I really encourage seniors, anybody who's a veteran or folks that may be lower income, to see if they may qualify for specifically tax relief, rental assistance, and anyone can look at whether they qualify for the various services. So thank you for your service. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime. Again, my name's Suzanne Harrison, and I look forward to serving right beside you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. All right. Well, we tried. Assuming Councilmember Sperry doesn't walk in right as we're doing this, we are missing some signatures on these proclamations. What we'll do is get them, and then one of us will get them to your schools and go that route before the school year ends. We should be able to do that, like this week, and we'll do that. But for those of you who don't know, so Canyon School District recognizes a teacher of the year every year, but within those, they narrow it down to 3, and they do an elementary teacher of the year, a middle school teacher of the year, and the high school teacher of the year. So they just did this a couple weeks ago. had this celebration, and I kept thinking that, like, did I miss when I bribed Canyon School District to make sure that it was a Midvale teacher in all of these categories? I thought for sure I was gonna, I just got a call from them, I don't know, a few days before the event, and said, all I've been told is that you'll want to be there. And I said, okay, I will be there. And I really suspected, I thought I was going to be accused of bribing somebody, that it was all these Midvale teachers. But I really do think for anybody who works in our community, I think our city staff is included in that, our police, our fire, our teachers, is that it can be a lot easier, I think, to go work in other communities. We have challenges here. We have a ton of opportunity, and the need is here. And I think that I talk to people. I was talking with one of our officers just last night, actually ran into him. And, you know, I was talking to him and he said, you know, I could go work somewhere else and have a job that was a little less hectic, a little less stressful, but that here he really feels like he's making the difference. And I think it's the same thing for our teachers, that I know that it comes with days that are probably a little more stressful. Comes with some situations that are probably a little more complicated than what you may find in other communities. And just know that I think it's recognized from us the amount of work and that extra effort you have to put in, but also that extra need that exists, and just how much more I think you're able to help these kids, because they need that love, they need that support, and just really appreciate it. Was so excited to have Midvale teacher recognized in all three categories. And with that, I will read this, and then we'll ask you to come up here, and we do have a little something for you as well. So, proclamation recognizing the Canyon School District Teachers of the Year. Whereas Canyon School District honors outstanding teachers from every level, elementary, middle, and high school, to be recognized for going above and beyond in their work with students. And whereas Midvale Middle School math teacher Maxwell Eddington, Hillcrest High School science teacher Tasha Jensen, and East Midvale Elementary second grade teacher Rachel Teasley were selected to be recognized as the Canyon School District 2023 Teacher of the Year celebration. And whereas the middle school teacher of the year, Maxwell Eddington, is an exceptional 8th grade math teacher who prioritizes building strong professional relationships with his students while ensuring each one recognizes they can succeed in math. And whereas more than 20 students wrote recommendations for Maxwell Eddington, crediting him for making math a likable subject, for teaching in a unique, fun, creative, and understandable way, for helping students feel comfortable and making sure they know he cares. And whereas the high school teacher of the year, Tasha Jensen, is known by colleagues as a teacher who loves her students and as being a thorough and well-prepared teacher. And whereas Tasha Jensen's students thrive thanks to her approach to teaching science, as she takes time to walk around the class to make sure everybody understands each concept. The way she demonstrates respect and kindness and helps others is appreciated by students and faculty at Hillcrest High School. He's here. And whereas the elementary school teacher of the year, Rachel Teasley, is the lead teacher for second grade, and where she created East Midvale's Science Committee and designed a spreadsheet to monitor her students' typical growth in reading and math, which has been adopted by the entire school. And whereas Rachel Teasley also excels at building relationships, meeting with each student weekly to track progress, and helps children from a wide variety of backgrounds succeed at learning in life. And whereas in schools across America, teachers arrive early to set up classrooms, spend long hours educating students, and stay late to prepare tomorrow's lessons. Their devotion to our children embodies the best of America, ready to serve and eager to see others thrive. Now, therefore, myself and as Midvale City Mayor and City Council hereby recognize Maxwell Eddington, Tasha Jensen, and Rachel Teasley as extraordinary teachers dedicated to serving our Midvale community. Can we give them a round of applause?
Do you want me to? Do you want to pass those down?
Yep. We're going to give him just a second to sign that.
Let's all watch Quinny's right there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know,
Sorry I'm late. I was coaching a soccer game.
Did you win?
I
Did you
think
win?
is the.
We did win, and we are assured of at least second, maybe first, depending how we play Saturday.
I think the teachers in the room will appreciate this. I forget about this very interesting, I find it very interesting fact about myself. When I was in elementary, I could read fine, but I was always a little slower and I would get tripped up on some things. And so then as I, process of like, oh, he needs glasses and getting my eyes checked, the eye doctor found out that I think it's my left eye is a wandering eye. It's very slight that it doesn't, it's not fully out there. But as I read things, sometimes my eye won't automatically go down to the next line. And so, you used to have to read with a ruler. And still, as I read these, I always hated having to read in class. Hated it. And now I'm in this position where I have to read these long things in front of people all the time. And I don't understand how that happened to me. So,
And
but here we are.
It's been, what, 5 years since you've been
Five,
in elementary
5
school?
years since I'll have you know that my 10-year high school reunion is this year, and I'll be at the Midvale City Mural Festival,
know about that.
and I'll miss it for that reason. So there. All right. Well, with that, I'd invite the two of you to come up, and we'll take a picture. And I want to make sure we get you your copy of this proclamation. So I do have a copy for each of you. It's no, they're the same. So.
Thank you very much.
Well, you can get that too. All right. You can hold this.
Oh, that's good. Perfect. 1, 2, and 3. And one more, and then actually one more with the family's gonna go.
I'm just like,
Now I can't see Councilmember Brown. Oh, there you go. I can see you. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah, do you want to grab it? You got it.
Do you want to carry that for me? Go carry that back to Daddy.
Good catch.
She's got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we will move on to reports. For mine, just to be aware, if you remember, as part of the last year, for the first time, the city mayors had to go through a winter overflow selection process. House Bill 440, God, there's too many House Bill numbers that I forget all of them. The one that dealt with homeless mitigation and an overflow shelter, we get to do that process again. I think it's going to be better this year because we've got more, key people at the table, such as service providers, the Office of Homeless Services. They have an official place at the table now. Not every city is involved, but Midvale is, so I'll be the representative on that task force. And so our first meeting for that process is this Thursday. So as that moves forward, I will keep you all updated as we start engaging on those conversations again. The only other thing is, as the chief had mentioned, Matt and I went and met with our precinct officers, mostly in that updated on reorganization, but one of the main things that I wanted to make sure that we told them before it was, fully public and wanting to make sure that we were upfront about it, is that in 2020 we did that study of what it would look like to do policing on our own, and let them know that we are updating that study. And again, just wanted to be upfront with them about that, and making sure that they know that we're looking at all of our options in this, of what do the different options of a shared model look like, depending on having more or less communities at it, and then as one of those options as well, if we had to go our own. So that was kind of the big thing that I went and talked to them about. I think as the chief had said, I think he used the word rosy, as the not everything was necessarily rosy that we talked about, but I do think there was good feedback, good conversation in it, and I think had a fair amount of, I think they really appreciated that we were there to talk to them about that. Okay, that's all I have. We'll go to Councilmember Sperry.
The other thing, I know a few weeks ago we were celebrating, I think it was the Hillcrest Theater and how well they did. They had the Utah High School Musical Theater Awards over the weekend, and Hillcrest was awarded the state award for ensemble piece, so for their musical that they had in the fall. So again, congratulations to them for everything they did. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Public Works. That was fun. Got to know a few of the extra employees. I think that's valuable. I think we even should probably find a way to do that with other employees. Just chatting with them. They're obviously experts in their field and provide a lot of services, and just super cool people. So getting to talk to them was almost more valuable than the presentation. I think, not that it wasn't valuable to see that 25-foot hole in the ground. So if we could find a way to do that, I would encourage that, because I thought that was fun. So I appreciate it, and thank you for that. And the only thing about that whole presentation that made me sad was realizing there's going to be people living next to, about as close as possible to Public Works, and that design's really bad. And that's not our fault. We were obviously there. We're not hiding the ball, but I can imagine one plow truck backing up at midnight or 1 a.m., let alone 5 or 6, is going to really frustrate those people. And that's why it should not be, 5 or 6 story, apartments right next to that. And I don't know if we can do anything at this point, but we really need to, lean on that or push on that, because I want to provide as much housing in Midvale as we can, but I want it to be a comfortable, housing and stuff. And what that'll be is a lot of people complaining on Facebook and whatnot forever. Because as soon as that person's contract's up, they'll move. The next person will come in, and it'll just be a repeat. And, it was kind of very eye-opening to see how loud it can be and how close they're going to be. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to extend my gratitude for Public Works for taking the time out today. I think Bryant pretty well covered it. It's really nice to not only have the experts in their fields, but also be able to establish somewhat of a working relationship with them. So I think that was great. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Mural Fest is coming up the first weekend in June. I really hope that people are able to turn out for that. It is a really, really cool project. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Glover?
I'd just like to echo thank you for the trip. It was eye-opening and good to see the equipment that we do have, see what we do need to be able to work on to improve our situation. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Gettle?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be remiss to not thank Public Works for the tour. It's interesting, we approve things budgetarily, like the big truck. I don't know what it's called, but I'll call it the big truck. And so it's like a line item that we see for $500,000, and Glenn tells us he needs it, and we say yes, and it's nice to actually see what it is. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's why it's $500,000. So thanks for that.
The size of my house.
A couple of things real quick. I've been talking about it. The County Animal Services is going to have their event here at City Hall on, it is August 8th at 1 p.m. So they're going to bring some dogs in here. They're going to have the political pets, the dog mayor, as I like to call Blueberry, I believe is its name. So that'll be, I forget what day of the week it is, but August 8th at 1 p.m. here at City Hall. Hopefully we can kind of coordinate that with the Harvest Day /week 10-day events. Other than that, I did also mention at our last council meeting that I was interested in perhaps having a flag, an actual city flag. So I did a very unscientific poll on Facebook, and to say that it went over like a lead dirigible would be unkind to lead dirigibles. But, so there doesn't seem to be an appetite among the community for that. It was a bloodbath of no's, and people who I thought would absolutely vote yes voted no. So I don't think that I'll bring that up again unless there's some great.
It was pretty rough. I
It was
stayed away
rough.
from
It
that
was-
post.
If you want to know the actual numbers, there
It
were
doesn't take them to fall on that one.
there were 155 votes and 120 people said absolutely not. So that was a nice 78 to 22% split. So we will, hopefully, anyway, we will not be doing a Midvale City flag. We're happy with what we have flying out there right now. That's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Ecstatic.
Thank you, Councilmember. City Manager Dahl.
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, we just have the one item, consider minutes of May 2nd, 2023. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Lori, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Spare?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Robinson? Aye. Brown?
Yes.
And Gettle?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Moving on to our first action item, consider resolution number 2023 R19, authorizing the mayor to execute a 2023 TRCC interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for canal trails implementation. Okay,
It'll be me presenting tonight. It's giving me a headache. Thank you, council and mayor. So I'm bringing before you guys a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for the Canal Trails project. Just to give you guys a little bit of background about how this kind of came about and where the money's coming from. I believe it was back in 2001, Midvale City was awarded $600,000 via the TIF Active funding program for the development of these trails along the East Jordan and the Jordan and Salt Lake City Canal Trails. However, in order to proceed with this project, Midvale City needed to match $240,000 in funding. So at that time, fast forward, I guess, a couple years, Midvale City applied through the TRCC support program for the $240,000 that was needed. And that was awarded to us, which is why we're hoping we can enter into that contract tonight. So those grant funds will provide the matching funds that are needed to proceed with the Trails project. And then at present, Midvale City is working on a slightly different project that will impact this future project, which is the Canal Trail Feasibility Study. Once this trail feasibility study is completed, the results will guide the design and construction of the trails, which will be where the $840,000 goes towards. So, the key terms of the agreement include that the grant amount would be $240,000. We would need to expend the funds by March 31st of 2024, and then the scope of the project would be the actual construction of those trails along the East Jordan and the Jordan and Salt Lake City canals until the money runs out. And then the method of disbursement would be a lump sum reimbursement. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, here's the motion.
What do you meet the dates that you have up there?
I think we can. I believe the Canal Trails is wrapping up here soon. I'm not privy to the schedule on that, but.
Yeah, the Canal Trail feasibility study will come before you at a June work session, and it'll be fairly close to wrapping up, and so then we'll be able to move to the next phase.
What if the feasibility study comes back and says it's not that feasible?
It won't.
I mean, at that point, then we are unable to, I would imagine, fulfill the obligations of the agreement, and we would therefore not expend the
not
money, and we wouldn't get the reimbursement because the money hasn't been expended.
You might not have been here yet, Mayor, but when we first discussed this, I think it's where I coined the phrase governmenty. Because, like, I mean, we all know that the canals are feasible, so we have to spend all of this money when, in my opinion, the money would be better spent in doing the design work now rather than the study that says, here's how we're gonna design it. So it just seems like double spending to me, and I've never met a feasibility study that I like.
What's weird to me, or why maybe I don't quite get it, is, you know, this trail or this canal runs through a dozen cities, right? Like, so what if ours comes back not feasible, but Murray's and Sandy's come back feasible? We're obviously can't. I mean, it feels like one city needed to do the feasibility study, because I can't imagine anyone would want to do like a patchwork trail, right? Like, so do we know if anyone else has already done the feasibility study? Like, I'm just trying the timeline, right? Or will there just be, especially over by Councilman Sperry's, if we approve it and we have 20 feet of a trail, because it seems like a small area, right? Like, are we just going to do it end to end, or are we coordinating with all these other?
Yeah, UDOT itself actually has done a generalized feasibility study, not the level of detail that it needed to be, and so they determined that it was feasible. That's based on that is why they awarded the $600,000 initial grant, and they actually also awarded the study money to study the further feasibility of it, the individual trail by trail and company by company feasibility. The tricky part of this is that you're dealing with all of these canal companies that UDOT or the city or the county don't have authority over. So that's where it really becomes tricky, because the feasibility is really a lot about, are they going to allow the trails and the widths that are needed so that they feel they can continue to maintain the canals, because the canals need to
dredge
still
them and
be their primary purpose is to be the canal. So that's where it comes in. I know it's frustrating, but that's just the path. And
it's mostly just funny because there's other, it's not just Midvale, right? Like, for that trail to be successful, it needs to be the whole length of the canal. So, you know.
Well, I think one of the things too with these feasibility studies is that if we don't do them and something goes wrong, then we'll have people coming back and saying, why didn't you guys look into these things? And so it is like this balance that oftentimes in government, I mean, it's part of what makes government sometimes feel bureaucratic, or as Councilman Gettle said, governmenty, is just this thing of, you know, if we don't follow all the steps, the public can be very upset with it if there's something wrong with that. At the same time, it's also the thing that slows us up and makes us not be able to move as quickly. And so anyways, I mean, I get the governmentiness of it, but this is just generally the way we go through in a lot of these projects, and we will continue to do that. I mean, but I absolutely respect the sort of looking at how do we make sure we're as efficient as possible. And so anyways, I appreciate everyone's comments on it, but that's why we're doing it.
Does any of the $840,000 total, does that include moving like 1 pound of dirt anywhere, or is that just this kind of surveying, paperwork, creating permanent jobs for canal feasibility study folks?
So the $840,000 actually goes to the physical construction of the trail. Okay. So that's what I wanted to do, the timeline, because they are in a sense like two different projects. One is the feasibility study, which looks at if it's feasible, and then after that, the results of that will guide the second project, which is the actual construction of the trails along those canals.
Do you have any idea just how, just generally what the amount of just the feasibility study itself is costing versus the 840 total?
The feasibility study itself is 75, and the city's match for that was, I believe, 6.
And that's not included in this amount. That's in addition to that.
We approved that already.
Yeah. So the majority of this will go to construction and actual construction design.
Okay. That's a relief.
Can I add one more thing here too? This amount of money is nowhere near what the total trail build out is gonna cost. But these feasibility studies and these design work, as you saw, the governor's budget included a lot of trails money. He didn't get all of that, but he did get a pretty significant amount. WFRC is very interested in continuing to fund these. So the fact that we've gotten this much money is great. Having the feasibility and having those segments that are starting to connect with segments that are in Sandy and in Cottonwood Heights and in Murray will allow us to continue to get more money year after year as this becomes more and more of a priority in the state. So I think that the canal trails and some of the plans that we have in, eventually connecting those throughout the city, maybe even from like the Bonneville Trail to the Jordan River Trail, just starts to get very compelling on having those cross trails through the city that just, there's no way to put those into the city other than doing something like this. So I think it'll just be something that the state continues to put out funding for and the county continues to, so.
I'm very excited for it generally because in the fall, there's a canal that crosses by Princeton, sort of on the south end. And I was walking around before my surgery and it was like 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. And 3 guys came out from under the bridge right there. Like, I don't know if they're sleeping under there or what. So I just hope, with continued use year round that would less likely to happen, hopefully, and then hopefully that's also safe, right? But, that's close to state and whatnot, and a lot of people, so I was really shocked at like, hey, what are these like 3 people that look 40 plus, like literally under the bridge at Princeton? And so hopefully that could be, keep things a little safer, cleaner. So that's something else to think about besides just the trail usage. It could be just a better thing for our community.
Okay, so I've got clarification. So the 240,000 has to be used by March of 2024? Mm-hmm. And then what about the 600,000?
That one doesn't have a hard deadline. We just have to continue to show that we're making progress towards using that. There was a big question of whether the city wanted to take that because of that match amount is a big chunk. So getting this grant helped us to be able to even take that money from UDOT. But right now, it doesn't have a hard use it or lose it date. So we should have a little more flexibility there.
And are we going to have the ability to, because I don't know if we know an estimated how much completing that proposal for the canals would cost, but so you just said that the 840 is not going to get us there. So are we going to have the ability to complete it, or are we going to have like a quarter of a trail completed and then we're just going to have to figure it out?
Through the feasibility study, I believe we asked them to prioritize parts of the trail, and so we'll, based on if you just did a segment, which segments would be used now, knowing that we want to complete it all. So there is a phasing.
What will make sense for a phase 1 where we can best utilize those funds to make a logical phase 1 and then continue from there. And that's what that will be one of the main outcomes of the feasibility study is what can a phase 1 be with this amount.
Okay, thank you.
Despite my grumpiness, I do support opening canals to pedestrians and bicyclists and folks. I just want to make sure that we spend our money wisely. So.
Unless there are more questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number 2023-R-19, authorizing the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement between Midvale City and Salt Lake County regarding the Midvale City Canal Trails project.
Second.
I had no idea what to do. I'm just gonna wait
We
here.
were testing your memory.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I just froze.
Rory, recall roll.
Yes, Councilmember Glover.
Aye.
Robinson. Yeah. Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
And Sperry.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, item B, review and approval of resolution number 2023-R20, adopting the updated board and committee assignments for Midvale City.
As you recall, a couple times a year, we'll go through and make changes to the list of committees that you are members of and represent the city in. Typically, we'll look at it more holistically. This time, there was a specific request from the Historic Society asking that Councilman Glover become the liaison to the Historic Society. We have spoken with Paul. Paul has been willing to do so. And so we're just making this one change this time. If there are other changes that you're interested in, we'll bring this back in a little while if there's anything else that people want to change. But this was just intended to just quickly get this change made.
How come they want it, Paul?
Just, the only reason is because I'm so old.
I was gonna be like,
It's just,
is
I know the history.
They said it was a sunny disposition.
Paul
So-
is historic.
They did say, because I met with them, and they said Paul just has, his family has a history here, and they want the knowledge.
He's got
to
a
help
street
them.
named after him.
Yeah.
It's true.
None of us are as cool as Paul.
I just wanted, to be out there that it was like, Paul knows the history. That's why
right.
they wanted him.
So with that, if any, like I said, this is just making that single change this time around, and we'll come back if there are more changes that you are interested in. Let me know. But if you are amenable to this change, I'd look for a motion to do so, which is in the packet.
I think I'm supposed to ask for a motion, Matt.
I'm not gonna do my own.
Are you ready for a
It's a
motion?
solid
I'm
vote, Mayor.
ready for a motion.
I move that we approve resolution number 2023-R20, adopting the updated board and committee assignments for Midvale City, specifically to put Paul Glover on.
Second.
Historic Society.
We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
I'm going to put that in there.
Rory, we call roll?
Yes. Councilmember Glover.
Aye.
Robinson. Aye. Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
And Sperry.
Aye.
Okay.
Will you read back the record? Did Quinn say the Relief Society?
No, the History Society.
Bad joke, terrible joke. I'm
I
sorry.
got it.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item C, consider resolution number 2023-R21, approving the proposed draft mural design for the City Hall building mural as part of the 2023 Mural Festival.
Thank you.
I don't even have a name on this one. It just says CDRDA Executive
Yeah.
Assistant, so
I think it was added.
it's still the wrong person, but go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I'm here, we're good. Thank you, council and mayor. So tonight I am going to present the mock-up that we received for the City Hall mural for City Council's approval. So as a reminder, this is the wall that will be painted. It'll be the entire wall. And this next slide is the mock-up that was received from Key Detail. It will take up the entire wall. The name of it is The Free Spirit of the Mountains. And yeah, if you have any questions, concerns, issues, happy to talk about it. And yeah.
So, being on the committee, I just want to say, I think it's good to explain some of the process, because I found it interesting, is you look at, I don't know how many people, 60 or so different projects, and they obviously varied in quality. There was some very amateur projects that could be good elsewhere, and some very high quality artwork. But what's interesting is, even if they have 5 or 10 images in the portfolio, they obviously aren't going to repeat that. Mm-hmm. So when you like approve an image, when you're like, hey, this is the artist we want, this is sort of what we want, you don't always get the that image, right? So it was a fun process to sort of see how that worked. I feel like we did have a solid hand in picking the artist, but obviously, they've made some adjustments or something, but I thought it was a good process at least to sort of narrow it down and get to where we want to go. So I think people should understand we worked very hard to pick an artist. There's only so much you can control after that, outside of our sort of general prohibited
the guidelines. Correct.
Questions, comments for Kate?
Just one question, it's not the picture or anything or the art. Is the paints that they're using, does one artist work better than another artist as far as holding up and that kind of stuff? We've never really discussed that. Is that part of the choosing the artist, or is that ever brought up? I'm just asking from the committee's point of view.
Yeah, no, we didn't ask the artist what type of paint is used. Typically, these artists have, especially the more experienced ones, have done multiple murals that are outside and last quite a long time. I do know that with this mural, we're having them put anti-graffiti coating on, which will protect it from not only graffiti, but the sun as well.
And I guess that's why I'm asking is, when we're actually picking out these artists, are we actually, is that part of the process? I think it ought to be.
So for me, I rated everyone lower that had nothing in their portfolio that was outdoors. So I in my criteria, there was some that looked amazing, but I'm like, they have no evidence or proof that they have done this on a vertical wall that has weathered, right? So, I think I would even put notes like, this is really cool, but not for our outdoor wall. So hopefully the people that are judging take all of that into consideration. So this person has done a lot outside.
So I guess what I'm saying is maybe in the future, there ought to be a question in there about the paint and how long it'll last and that kind of stuff. Because if I'm judging, I would like to know that of the artist.
This artist has done enough outside and big enough areas.
I can see
the market would have pushed him out by now because he's done some big stuff.
And I can understand that. I'm just wondering in the process from now on, maybe that ought to be one of the questions.
We actually do, within the contracts, have the requirement that they have to use quality, durable paint, and that they have to, there's some other language in there regarding that it has to be painted to last a certain amount of time. So we do include that in the contract, that's a requirement of the
I'm of the opinion that a lot of artists need to start somewhere, right? Even if they're good. But if it's on our building, they need to have outdoor experience, right? For the mural festival or whatever, there was some really cool options that maybe we could push people that have never done something outside to be like, hey, there's something cool for this, to see if they do have what it takes to do it outside. But I think for our buildings, as long as I'm on that committee, I always push experience, because I would hate, especially if it's on this building, like all of a sudden it just runs, right? Like it's just, or kind of like what happened with our crosswalks. They were cool for like 7 hours. They were so cool though, for those like 7 hours.
Yeah, that was a test.
Yeah.
Cody was just reminding me that in the contract, it also states that if something goes awry with the mural that is due to the paint that they use or the technique that they use, that they're liable to fix it, or they have to return the money if they refuse. So if it is for some reason it's faulty paint or the way that they've painted it, then they would be required to fix it.
Thank you.
I do love the color scheme on this one. I'm just wondering how it will look on the building itself, but I'm assuming that those who are smarter about art thought about that. Not everything looks great on this type of brick building that we have, so I'm assuming the bird, this is an eagle, right?
I believe so, yes. I mean, he doesn't specifically say it's an
Okay.
eagle, but I would
Yeah.
venture to guess yes.
But my only thought is, the majority of the body of the bird, which I do think is an eagle. Brian, do you think it's a falcon?
It's a bird of prey of some kind.
Okay. It's something that would pick up my little dog and
Yes.
fly away with it.
It's a descendant of a dinosaur.
But the body of birds are both very, very brick red. So how is that going to work?
I mean, so the artist is aware of the wall and the texture and the location, and even in his original mock-up, he had just put it on the top half of the building because he was anticipating the bushes still being there. I would assume because of the experience that this artist has had, he would tailor his work to fit whatever sort of texture it is that he's painting on.
Okay.
I should clarify that, at least from my understanding of reading his portfolio, that this is probably the last artist I would question on that. Whether he was very accomplished in the outdoor space, so it would be surprising if he put up something that didn't last or was weird,
I'm just curious, though. I mean, I guess there'll be some sort of opposing color background that he'll put the image of the bird on, because that red will
Yeah, I would imagine
disappear
that is
in
paint
brick.
and not like.
The brick, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
using the brick for the
All
color.
right.
I
Well, it
believe
looks
it's
great.
paint.
Whatever.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2023-R-21 and approve the final design for the mural on the north end of the east-facing wall of City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Robinson. Aye. Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Sperry.
Aye.
And Glover.
Hi.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a closed session tonight, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please